Hey, are you in that camp of restoration specialists and contractors across the United States right now that are seeing a major dip in leads coming across and homeowners giving you a call and your organic working, your marketing work or anything like that? You're not alone. It's been a lot of people, and it has caused myself and my good close friend, regular on the show, Jon Grubb, to have a conversation about that over the last week, and he has uncovered some really interesting data, and we're bringing that to you today. So welcome to Disaster Podcaster. If it's your first time here, I hope you enjoy it. Check out our previous ones. If you are a regular, we appreciate you coming back time after time, and would love if you would share with other people. I have people all the time asking, why don't you do a podcast? And I'm like, I do. Anyway, good episode. We uncover a lot. I'm trying to bridge the gap between positive and negative. So I think you're going to walk away with what things you can do if you are one of the ones struggling right now. Welcome to the show. Jon Grubb. Welcome.
How you doing, Klark?
I'm good. I want everyone to know that this episode will make you now the most frequent visitor and guest. It might as well be the Disaster Podcaster with Klark and Jon. You now hold the record for number of appearances. So
do I get a belt?
You will get a
Trophy?
belt. We were just talking about Hulk Hogan. I'm gonna get you a belt. It'll be made.
It'll drape it over my shoulder. In all my videos.
It won't be real gold because gold's really expensive right now.
But, that's fine. That's fine.
I will say the reason that you always come on is because the conversations are a level above. We can talk about the surface level thing, but then there's like this episode, we've got some homework that we did, but there's always a layer into it that most people and restorers and myself, we don't consider some of those things, and especially with the topic of today. So, Jon, let me kick it off. You and I were texting yesterday just about this common theme of just we're in a slump. Our industry, it's this year. There are some people just in the last few weeks, it's picked up, and that happens, right? But by and large, 2025 sucked, and 2026 is sucking more. I know I'm seeing equipment for sale. I'm seeing layoffs, and I'm sure other things. But we were texting back and forth, and like we always do, said, okay, hold on, this sounds like a podcast, because you were spitting out some really good data. So what are you hearing from Jon Grubb, digital marketing? Anyone that doesn't know him, incredible handles, makes your phone ring, digital marketing. We're going to put another video from our previous call up here. We'll mention that a couple times here. But what are you hearing from the field, from the industry?
It's the same complaint over and over. We're not getting calls. And when I'm, if it's a client and I'm looking at what's happening in their Google ad dashboard, I said this twice yesterday to two different clients. If you had told me that your phone was ringing off the hook, I'd say, yeah, of course it is, because the numbers reflect that. The numbers on the ad platform side of things, you can't ask for better numbers. Cost per click is reasonable. Cost per click, I've said this time and time again, but it has been flat for 15 years. You've got a couple little outliers around the country where it's expensive, but it's not expensive anywhere right now because very few people are actually advertising. And we'll get into the why behind that. But the general concern is the phone's not ringing. And it's not just from paid ads. It's from organic. It's from maps. It's from LSAs, AI summaries. Even the referral networks are down. And so that led me to, well, let's look at national claims averages and see what's going on there. If we can identify a problem there, maybe that would explain why this direct-to-consumer model that I've built my business on since 2013 isn't working the way we want it to.
Yeah. Tell me what you started digging in, and where were you getting your data? I know that you were pulling it from many places, and probably a little bit of like I do, I kind of like, this is where I do believe in AI. I believe it's much better at crawling the internet than I am for sources. Trust but verify. But what were you finding in your searches on this topic and some of those conversations you were having yesterday with people?
Well, I want to go back to our video. It's on our channel. It's called Slumps. And we cut it up. I think it was like a 45-minute conversation you and I had, and we cut it into 7 or 8 short videos. That was August of 2024. And that video came about, if I remember correctly, because of a conversation I had with John Otero, who had said, dude, you got to look at the National Insurance Carriers database and look at the number of claims and see how they are down over 2023, 2022, et cetera. We know we had a peak in 2020 because half the country was home, twiddling their thumbs, watching Netflix and apparently watching pipe spray. But then there was this sharp decline in claims. So he cued me into that. And then as I've heard this pain point, my phone's not ringing from any source. I just started digging into Verisk data by way of Grok. I also am very AI has its place. It's a really good compiler of data, and then you do have to trust but verify. But so I started looking into it and I had Grok go through a couple different resources and articles and things like that, and then the numbers just started popping up. Wow, this is really a problem. So I'll give you some of the numbers that it reported. So my original question was, compare 2025 to 2020 to 2024. That was the parameters, right? So immediately we see in 2024, claims were down 20%. 2025, fewest number of property damage. I didn't look at auto, who cares? But fewest number of property damage claims in the previous 5 years. Like 2025 was an anomaly. And if we think we're out of that anomaly, we're not. Come next year, when we look back at 2026, I think it's going to be a far more grim picture, at least for the first 2-3 quarters of this year. And again, I'll give you some of my projections later. But here's how the numbers broke down. So 2025, there were 5.27 million claims filed. Versus 2024, there were 6.47 million claims filed. So that's your 19 or 20% drop. Commercial property claims were down 22%. They went from 910,000 in 2023 to 710,000 in 2025. And again, you can plug this question into whatever flavor of AI you like, and you're going to see what I'm seeing. This is referencing Verisk.com, immagazine.com, and riskandinsurance.com. So huge chunk of our normal business in the industry just gone in 2025. The last figure that's very telling, hurricane-related claims down 90% in 2025. Like, we knew it was a bad year, but down 90%. And then we had no winter, like anywhere. Okay.
Jamaica had a Hawaii. Jamaica had a hurricane, but
true.
That was the only one. But no claims down there showed up. So, okay, that's those are staggering numbers. It probably affirms what a lot of people are feeling, and these are conversations that are happening, at different conferences and RIAs and across social medias, and I get all that, but. So I think there's a lot of fingers pointed at why, and we've seen some policies being rewritten. That's nothing new. Deductibles are growing to be 1% of the home value. I think that there is a big scare of carriers leaving states and areas and regions and certain types, and I think people are afraid to file claims. Obviously, they're de-incentivizing people to file claims. What's interesting, John? We say this a lot. When people have a 3% deductible and live in a $500,000 house, so it's $15,000, not knowing what restoration, mitigation, and even construction to a point cost, they start to do their own homeowner math and say, is it risk. Is it worth filing a claim, getting dropped, my premium going up? But John, I've often wondered, and I've written several articles about the private equity and hedge funds and their huge investments in real estate. So that's BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, buying huge numbers. And I think there was a law passed, a limit of how many new homes or something, but they're turning properties into rentals. So I'm wondering if those are becoming less claims, unless they're quite severe. I just wonder if some of these little micro changes are causing the environment and the habits of claims management from a homeowner side to really shift. Like we can sit here and say we agree that there's way too many contractors. I think it's exploded. We certainly know about hurricanes, but do you think that the number of people filing claims comes down to who owns that home and what kind of capital they have to repair it themselves? Or what do you think?
It's got to make a dent. Is it, reflective in all the numbers? I don't think so. So going back to that slumps video again, August 2024, what you and I forecasted, maybe I did, I'll take blame for it, was we were entering a season. We were prior to the presidential election. We know that every election season, people start getting a little freaked out about spending money. That happens in multiple industries, except the firearms business. And looking back now, so we had record inflation, presidential election, and then we were already noticing these changes to how carriers were paying out claims, how they were, factoring your premium, deductible, et cetera, right? So we identified these things, and what I asserted in that video was all of these things equal buyer hesitancy. And when you have buyer hesitancy, you have picky customers. And we'll get into why that's not a terrible thing. But looking back, I think that was the first domino to fall, because so many of those things have just ramped up. I know personally, I've been kicked off of 2 regional carriers over the last 3 years. They just got out of the residential business entirely. My deductible, I think, has tripled. Not a percentage of my home value, but expensive. And granted, I added some coverages, but Lord have mercy, it's expensive. So, and then, I haven't filed claims in that time. But if I did, I'm sure I'd be looking at an increase the following year. The private equity question in particular. So, I'll go on record and say private equity is probably the single greatest threat to our industry. And this comes from an M&A perspective. That's a different podcast. But what they're doing in real estate, and I don't like it either. And I don't think it's helping, in any way, shape, or form. But the number where that may be reflected more accurately is in the claims paid out figure. So let me give you number 2024. So we had 6.7 million claims received and closed. 42% of those closed with no payment. So CWP closed without payment. That's almost 3 million of those 6.7 million claims. The carrier didn't pay out at all. In 2025, it was closer to 50%. Claims just not paid out. So is that let's say private equity has 10% of all vacancies or they own the real estate, they're vacant homes, right? Are they not handling these issues, and so claims aren't being paid out because they do a cost benefit analysis and say it's not worth it, or is it homeowners who simply don't have the savings to pay that deductible? They're scared of premiums increasing. All due to buyer hesitancy, all due to these factors we've identified, the economy and inflation, oil prices, and all these things. I don't know the answer. All I know is nearly 50% of all claims filed in 2025 were never paid out.
No payout.
Paid out, right. This doesn't capture the number of claims that were canceled by the homeowner or totally abandoned. Right. It doesn't capture that at all. That number is not reported.
but somewhere in that number. And there's also the delay. So something that happened in 2023 may not, or 2024 occurrence might have paid off the next year, but it's still the number still went up. And this year might be there's a trailing tail of that thing. That's a big number, and I think that's either it's getting denied by a carrier, it's going to go to legal, and the customer says I can't outlaw your State Farm, whoever, or it's a private equity, I was actually shocked at what you said about commercial, but then I think maybe we're still going back, John, and I want to move our podcast to the what we can do, but going back to the mention of the pandemic, people at home, I think that there's still a truth that a lot more people are staying home and still working from home, which would mean more vacancies at properties. So no more water damage, commercial properties, office buildings, share spaces, but people are at home and they're in their pajamas, but they're kind of like catching leaks before. One thing that pops up at me when I hear about, law of averages says there's still going to be water losses and perils and things like that. If they're not being paid and not being mitigated professionally, you know who's going to lose out? The mortgage companies. They're going to be holding a lot of properties that are going to be decaying from water rot and things like that. And then I guess what I would say, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, this would be a great time to be in the mold business. If you know this, if you look at this accurate number, you should be in the mold remediation business and figure out how to sell to the public, because that's not a covered loss.
Yeah. I can tell you from what my clients report, and then I work with a few different marketing and web design companies that have been in this business a very long time. They are saying, and my clients are saying, mold is pretty steady. Yes, there was a drop off over the last 3 weeks or so. That's totally normal. That's just the whole nature of how this business works. But mold is strong. Asbestos abatement is strong. There are services. It's water specifically that is really, really struggling. These ancillary services, which I've railed against, or I've railed for years, of don't just do that one thing. You're a restoration company. Restoration has many, many different facets to it. So flood chasing works when you've got a great economy and everybody's got money, and your competition is low. That is not the market we find ourselves in right now.
Wow. And then we've got I'm sure plumbers are seeing less and less of this too. They're getting called to less, or it could be that, the whole plumber, I don't even want to go down that. That's a podcast that we've done 100 times, but, they're going to, they're affected because they're looking, and I've talked to several people, $1,500 for leads. It's wild. It's insane. That's, okay. Well, I want to shift over to everyone. The first 10 minutes or 20 minutes of this, we're talking about kind of like setting the base of the conversation. But what I'd like to discuss is the good news, the optimism side, and the fact that you and I both either have clients or friends or colleagues that are doing very, very well. I was just somewhere last week, in out of state, and they were like, staff is their issue again. It wasn't for a while. They have more work. They're having to say no. They're certainly cherry picking, but they have a lot of work. And I think what you said about whether this trend continues or not, John, and I want these to be some of the topics we land on. You and I, since 2017, have been involved with what's called the rebel movement, which, like it or not, we've always said, we sound like parrots. Remove yourself from the idea that you are in the insurance claims industry, because this is the kind of things that are happening, and building your brand about a B2C, straight to consumer, as opposed to carrier, it just never has made more sense than it has right now. And I am happy to say I've watched not nearly enough people in the industry, but a good size of people who have shifted, and that might include leaving Xactimate and getting away from that price fix thing, but also just taking ownership and things like that. So what are some of your thoughts of seeing some? I know we had a lot of conversations. I'd like you to kick off, like, what's the positives of this?
Well, let's talk about your client that you visited last week. What's the differentiator there? Why are they successful and other clients aren't right now? Is it market? Is it brand? What's your gut reaction?
So I want to call out this, and you get this all the time. These things don't work in my market, Klark, Jon. I live in Southern California or Northern California or Detroit. You don't know what it's like here. And I was like, I don't live there, but I certainly know people that do. And what would if 2 towns away, if I told you that guy was swamped, what would you say? Everyone thinks their market has some kind of black cloud over it. The specific case last week, and I will say, if I'm doing my own AI analysis in my head, because I'm not nearly as fast as Grok, I look at what the common denominator is of people that are successful, and they have worked on relationships in different ways. Diversification is one of them, but have focused on a lot of things that I think you and I just think are non-negotiables, which are your brand, but diversification, like, it's all your consumers. They shop and buy and have behaviors in different ways. You've got to kind of be in a little bit of all of them. And you'll eventually, if you're looking at the data, you'll know which one is probably returning more or not. But last week, the gentleman, the team, by the way, big operator, between 19 and 22 million. They live up north. So depending on the weather, there's a fluctuation, but holding right around that 20 million relationships. They're not plumbers. They're not TPAs. They're not a little bit of program. They are a franchise, and that's interesting, but they don't look at themselves as insurance company driven. They would be too much of a risk if they put a $20 million business, 30% of your jobs, 50% of your jobs come from carriers. You're racing on the line of a razor. That's a turn off that program. You're cut off, but they have relationships long-term. They've been there. They are, 10 plus, 12 plus years, just becoming the trusted professionals in their market and stuff like that. So that's a common denominator. When I can list in my head the 10 people that are telling me that they're beating their numbers every year, that they're hitting their goals, they are focused on a diversification, but it's relationship marketing, brand marketing. So that was that's to answer your question for them.
I'm not shocked. This is what we said. Well, I guess we're at a year and a half ago now.
It was 18
we talked about brand reputation. Go out and get reviews. Let me say, I'll be kind of mean and say, if your phone's not ringing, but you're doing some pay-per-click and you're doing some SEO or SEM, and you feel like you're doing all the things digitally, you sponsor a softball or a little league team in town, you feel like your marketing's on point, and you've only got 15 reviews, that's the reason you're not getting phone calls. I sat on the phone with 2 clients yesterday, both in the same state, one on the west side of the state, one on the east side of the state. East is kind of the boonies. West side is, it's the tech hub of the country. And he's not getting calls. It's not a website issue. It's not a website conversion issue. He's doing all the things. He's spending plenty of money to drive that in. That's a market where very few people could say it doesn't work in my market. But when the tech bros don't have money to spend, we're in a little bit of a pickle. I literally last night I went through different layoffs happening in the tech sector. IBM, Oracle, Microsoft, tens of thousands of layoffs happened in the last 4 or 5 days. That's pretty wild. So, yes, brand reputation. If put yourself in the shoes of the consumer, you're kind of strapped on cash. Maybe you're like, I've got 2 friends my age that were laid off January 3rd. They are highly experienced professionals in very specific fields. Jobs gone like that, literally overnight. Like, so, for one friend, I was talking to him. This was, a couple weeks ago. And he said it was so jarring. He had been with this company for years and years. And he said it was so jarring. If you asked me to organize things on a table, like I couldn't do it. That's how, a layoff in your 40s feels. It just totally sends you, it really messes you up, right? So there's a lot of people going through that right now. And if you're that person, you've got, some threat of a layoff, your savings are low, you suddenly have some, water damage in your home, that will by nature make you a picky customer. And the picky customer is going to go for who the internet tells them is the most trustworthy company. That 15 5-star reviewed company is not going to compete with the company that has 200 5-star reviews. No matter the ad spend, your organic ranking, how good Google Maps, your GMB looks, what you're budgeting for LSAs every month. I know of clients that are budgeting 10 to 12,000 a week with LSAs. They don't spend that, but they're trying whatever they can to get more calls in. But it comes down to that customer who's never heard of you before, probably. What is their gut reaction to you when they see your brand? And the great equalizer is and always has been customer reviews. It's what internet strangers say about you. So what we said back then in August 2024 was now is the time to double down on, we mentioned relationships because that's still king overall of referral sources, but brand reputation. Now is the time to put the hard work into building up that brand so that stranger who doesn't know you, when they land on that search results page or your website, they're motivated just enough to make the phone call. And 15 reviews isn't going to do it. So that's not surprised. That's what you saw with your client. It's what I see with my clients. It's the conversation I had twice yesterday. I have regularly. I'm always harping on reviews. I've got a podcast coming up with a company called Sotellus that does sort of automates garnering reviews.
I've heard of them.
And it all comes back to, this is what we need now more than ever. Really, your company needed it a year ago. But it's never too late, and we've, I want to be pointing clients and non-clients alike to sources that I have seen over the years prove to me that they are trustworthy. So
let's double click on reviews for a minute, because I mean, again, let's pretend that this is the first time anyone's ever heard yourself, me, or even anyone talking about that. I think reviews are on everyone's wish list. But why would someone only have 15? They're not asking. They don't have a good system for asking. They're not good enough for a customer to leave them a review. That's an obvious choice. And if that's the issue, there's really, the reviews won't help you if you're not doing very well. You're not going to be here long enough.
Yeah. If you're bad at what you do, you're not going to get reviews.
That's the first best thing you can do right, is do good work. In our RBA, our academy, we did we call them lessons, but they're basically, 1 hour, 45-minute classes on these little micro topics. And one was getting 5-star reviews, just off the research, no different than what we're talking about. And, something I always did, and when I mentioned it, someone in the room said, I'd never thought of that. Put a QR code on your statement of work complete. So at that moment where you've got that highest level of customer enjoyment, like we're now leaving a phase, I'm happy. If you did, assuming you did a good job and that customer literally has a good taste in your mouth before the recon starts and the time delay. But at that point, if you've done your job and you've onboarded and you're offboarding well, have that QR code say, hey, you've got them captured for 2 or 5 minutes. Say, hey, as we do this, I'm going to turn my tablet around. You have your phone. Can you pull it up? And that should not be the first time you mentioned it. That was that lesson. It's from the very beginning. They should know that you're working for a 5-star review. But last week, that client, and this is just a recent one, they had 5 locations. So they're, again, a big organization. Their main one had 350 plus. Their others were up and down, but it's on their scorecard. It's literally, they have a goal of, it's not always how many reviews a week, it's percent of jobs that you have, because you're going to have slow weeks, but it's we want a review on 70% of all of our jobs, which is, so some people like, I would love to have that. They hit it. Some of them get 80%. If you're not hitting it, it requires them to ask a question. Why not? What are we not doing? Are we not asking, or do we suck? So, people will, I shop with reviews. I'm sure you do too.
We all do. Yeah,
we all do.
We don't. No one buys a 2-star product. It just doesn't happen. Amazon has trained us.
Yelp and Amazon changed this, right? And just
exactly. We don't eat at 2-star restaurants. We don't buy 2-star products.
Can I ask you, John? Are you seeing a lot of people buying fake reviews now? Though that's become a bigger thing, right? Is that is that degrading the trust in the review process for people?
Yeah, of course. The takeaway from this next segment is don't buy reviews. I take regular hiatuses from Facebook. I mean, I just don't go on Facebook very often. We have to do it for work because we manage.
Your skin looks great your skin looks great because you've left Facebook. It looks healthy on you.
Yeah, this is firearms and softball. But I don't go on Facebook. Very, very, very rarely, and only when it's for work. But during one of the periods of my Facebook fast, I logged in, and the very first post I saw was a restorer complaining about how he had been scammed by a guy who he had bought fake reviews from. And I just thought, that's it. I can go home for the day. It's the end of the internet. And I just closed that tab and went about my business. So, buying reviews is nothing new. Just know Google is better than they've ever been before at catching them. And your customers, my 11-year-old can spot AI before my 15 and 16-year-old can. I'm pretty good at spotting it too. But the population knows what is real. Thankfully, most of the now let me clarify that. A portion of the population knows automatically what is real and genuine. There is a group over a certain age that will be fooled every day of the week. Don't know what to tell you there, but it's unfortunate. People can spot fake reviews, so you can't do that. A couple of positive things about reviews is there's a company here in town that they track that in their war room. Like rather than, they're tracking daily jobs and everything, but they have every company in town. We have a lot of companies in our little town, and they weekly update how many reviews each company has. I can't think of a better thing to put in your ready room, your break room, whatever. That is like game changing in my mind. You told me 9 years ago that the start of every job, you painted the picture. I believe this was in Bend, Oregon. You painted the picture of that lead tech or project manager dragging the DHU up the front walk, going to the front door for the first time, knocking, introducing himself and saying, I'm here for a 5-star review. If at any time our work falls below a 5-star, here's my cell phone, call me, right? So framing the entire project at the very beginning with a 5-star, and at the end of the project, regardless of how you get it, QR code, sticker, so tell us, whatever it is, you've got to ask for that review in person. Now, to answer the question as to why some companies don't, it's laziness, they're bad. We can identify those immediately. But one phenomenon is most restorers they're just good guys. And for some reason, an owner operator, especially of a smaller company, it's like it is a humility thing. Like in the I mean that from the best way possible. It's I don't want to brag. And what I coach is you have to separate yourself from the brand. The review you asked for today, it's not for you. It's not for, Tom's Restoration. It's for the brand, and that has an effect on your employees 5 years from now, 10 years from now. You're making an investment in your brand. If good restorers who do good work would ask for reviews and they pass that company off to their kids 15, 20 years from now, the review you get today has a direct impact on the kids that take over that company 20 years from now. It does, because the internet is
I'll make that a little more short term. And what I teach is thank you for mentioning, because I've always said, start setting the expectation that this is what you're here for, and to give them permission to call you out. I won't be hurt. I will break my back trying to do it. I like to say, and this may be too much for some people, maybe layering on the woo-woo too much. Mrs. Jones, Mr. Grubb, the reason, in case you don't know, the reason we find reviews so important is because we take it real serious in this community, in Richmond, in Idaho Falls. Our reviews help more people find us, that we get to help our community. What we don't like is when people buy fake reviews or something, and then they trick our customers into using them and for a bad service, because that only hurts us long term. The more reviews we get, the better we get, the more people we can help, because they will trust you before they trust me or my marketing any day of the week. So that makes a restorer feel better. It's like, if I'm in this to help my team, my current staff, future staff, but also my community, to not be taken advantage of. It's that's a way that I've always wrapped it around. Manifest that in your mind. But I think that most people, now everybody has to ask themselves, and we can get off reviews if you want to, but if someone asks you for a review, a restaurant or a car wash or something, and you don't do it, then all of a sudden, then you've just identified why you don't get a lot of reviews, because it didn't mean that much. But I leave a review when there's been an excellent, extraordinarily surprising turn of events. And that's why I say, bring your customers coffee on day two. Call ahead, clean up before you leave, put cones out, ask them where you should park. All this stuff that I teach every single day is that experience level stuff of why Chick-fil-A is so popular.
Or other concierge service model.
People will say, why don't all home service contractors do what you do? Of course, I'll leave a review. That's kind of a no-brainer to a lot of people, but I think the ones that aren't asking for them don't grasp it. Then lastly, we can move on. I think when you are focused on the carrier and not the customer, it's easy to not ask for a review. You don't really think that's that customer is never going to call me back. That's the default facto, is like, it's a one-time customer. It's not. It's a long-term. But yeah, reviews, I wish more people everybody wants them. I just wish they had better systems to get them. And I think it would help.
Well, and this is why, I partnered with Sotellus years ago. It's a small family-owned company. They do, I can't say they do one thing anymore. They do lots of things now. But they do them well. But the idea was, if I can reduce the friction between my client and his client in getting the review, then it's a good tool. And is it affordable? Yes, it's very affordable. So I've sent clients that way. We produce for our social media clients. One of the first things we do after building a brand kit for them and all that is we create the QR code that's totally trackable. It's a photo on their phone. And the idea is they share that photo with every technician, office manager, whoever, so that you can create a shortcut on your phone, immediately pull up that QR code, and with the customer present, walk them through how to leave a review for you. So again, looking at, we want a review. If our work's good, they want to give a review. How can we reduce the friction between those two things? And that's what I'm always looking to do. Now, one thing before we wrap up is that elephant in the room we mentioned earlier, that 48%, almost 50% of every claim filed last year was not paid out. And let me clarify, that is from the big 14. Those are the 14 largest insurers in the country. 48% of claims weren't paid out. Who's taking care of those people? In my mind, that's like a Wild West market. You've got millions of claims that are just, they're not claims anymore. So they become cash at that point. What are we doing with those? What are your suggestions for how to capitalize on 50% of every loss in the country not being taken care of by a carrier? What can they do?
I think that no matter what age group, what bracket group, how you're wired, I think every restorer service contractor should become a marketing person. And I say this all the time. every single restoration company should have social media actively and figure out a campaign. Don't always just post the same dirty job pictures. Bring in your reviews, but I've seen that work. So people avoid that. Like I've got one, but my last post was 2 years ago. Well, guess what? You don't really have one. I think every restoration company should have a YouTube channel now. It's free. Learn and especially, and I know we're not really going into AEO, AI searches. I heard Gary Vee say he hasn't used Google in 13 months. He uses only his AI to search for things. Well, it searches differently. But if you have relevant information, answer driven, data, detail driven content on your website that links back through a YouTube channel or whatever, PDFs, downloads, I think people need to start thinking about carriers and plumbers are not going to be here for your business. So you got to be there for yourself, and it's got to be the other. Now, well, I understand people are busy, but they're busy on Facebook asking questions instead of
they sure are
making a YouTube channel. And I know that's just one example. Start a podcast. And you know what happens when people have podcasts? I was like, it gets around, especially if you research how to market that, like how to best broadcast it. You make it short, do the reels, do the shorts, whatever. But people start saying, God, you've got 300 videos about little micro things. And I love watching your next one. I wouldn't think of anybody but you, whether I have a claim or not a claim. I'm not really filing insurance, but I'd like you to come take a look at this mold job or this crawl space issue that I've got, or we had a rainstorm. Get the invitation to the house. And then, of course, have the reviews to back it up. But that's the trifecta, is be easy to find, be easy to contact, and have social proofing. But I think social media, as much as I hate it, John, it is what's built our business, because that's where people are, and that's where homeowners are.
And the term you haven't mentioned, but that you're alluding to, is you have to become the subject matter expert.
Matter expert.
You've done it. I've done it to an extent. I'll tell you, we brought on. Well, let me say this first. As far as diversification, I have 2 brands, and one brand has nothing to do with restoration, and it's because I saw what was happening and knew. Restoration has been very good to us. It's a great vertical. It's the industry I feel like I've helped shape in some way, in a small way. But it's my industry. It's hurting right now, and I've got a business to run. I've got people to pay. And so, a year ago, we started looking at manufacturing and health and wellness, and it's been good. Health and wellness, because we've got a pretty sick population, is a market it's a vertical that's thriving right now. So we brought on a client recently, again, not in restoration, but in the health and wellness space. He is a franchise. And this guy, his background is 25 years as a CFO in like Fortune 100 companies. So very, very smart guy, very, very competitive market. He said on the phone, as we were talking, kind of going through the, discovery process, he's like, I just need to tell people that I'm an expert in this thing, right? And so my prescription for him was, you got to start putting out content. So we are in week 9, where we produce 4 videos a week for him. He's done a 30-minute podcast. He just sent us a 15-minute podcast we're editing now. By the end, and I told him, I said, just give us 90 days. Let's see what we can do. We're doing daily social media posts plus 4 videos per week. That's a lot of content. And if in 90 days, when that agreement's up, if he fires us, he still has a ton of, like, almost 50 videos he's going to be able to recycle over the next year as he really focuses in on his marketing plan. And he'll have hundreds of posts to choose from to recycle. And that's fine.
They can be repurposed. They can be repurposed over and over.
We recycle posts regularly. If a client has a busy week, is out of town, we'll have to recycle posts. But that guy has become his own marketing machine. I can tell you, Friday afternoon, he uploads the raw video. We edit over the weekend. We get it posted Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And for the first time, he had a YouTube video break 100 views, which for me, that's a big deal. because he was getting 5 views and 2 views and 3 views. But I know how the system works. You have to be consistent. You have to just put it on your calendar, do the work, and eventually the algorithm rewards you. So he went from 0 social media presence, no Facebook page, no Instagram, no YouTube. We created all that for him, and he has been consistent in providing us with the raw content that we then edit, polish, put up, and it's having an impact. His problem also, labor. He has a hard time finding people. The first thing he saw was his phone was ringing off the hook with job hunters, which for him is wonderful. Gives him a big pool to choose from. So going back,
let me hit you there, John. Anyone that thinks that that's overwhelming to do, just use your phone.
That's it.
Earpieces. People don't need a highly polished cinematography, $10,000 camera. People, the numbers prove that they trust someone on a vertical reel or something like that. It's just the data's there. It's not even arguable.
I told him he's not a super technologically savvy guy. I said, I don't care what the video looks like. I don't care what room of your house you're doing it in. The audio needs to be pretty good. So he went out and bought probably a $50 USB mic. He shoots everything on his iPhone. We can polish a lot of stuff. And now he's literally, every video I get, he's in a different room of his house. I told him, I said, that white wall's looking kind of boring. Can we shift that? And he's like, people want to see my kitchen. And I'm like, yeah, people spend millions of hours a week watching people in their kitchens doing videos. So yes,
it's
that's
unreal.
totally fine. Yeah, all this stuff is doable.
Go ahead, John. Are you going to go to another subject, or are we still talking about? So
I want to mention one. I want to mention one thing. I want to harken back to the housing market collapse. 08, 09. There was a lot of doom and gloom back then too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think any restorer needs to look at the culmination of many things. Again, we've got I can tell you from an advertiser's perspective, the advertising auction is wide open right now. I mean, it's like it was 15 years ago. A lot of companies are not advertising because they don't have the cash to advertise. Then you've got the private equity angle coming in, gobbling up companies, inevitably driving them into the ground after about 9 months. There's a lot of things happening, and what these events do in an industry is they just thin the herd. So only the fastest, leanest, strongest members of the herd come out on the other side. So I believe that what we're experiencing right now, like, post housing market collapse, I believe it's temporary. I said, I think a year ago, that my best guess is third quarter of 2026 is when we start, we turn a corner and we start to see things change. Is that time with the midterms? Yeah, probably. I think we're going to see some good things in the economy, not just the Dow and things that don't, like, I want gas prices cheaper, right? I want groceries cheaper. So things that affect real people, I think we're going to start to see a change. And I think that will be sort of the light at the end of the tunnel. But look at this opportunity, or look at this event as an opportunity of that guy that you complained about 2 years ago when he opened and suddenly had 50 fake reviews. He's probably not going to be in business 6 months from now. The culling or the thinning of the herd, it's usually a good thing. And our industry has been through it multiple times, not just the housing market collapse. We've seen this before, and it's not all doom and gloom. It's stay the course, be consistent, and don't give up the ship. If you're a good company, you have an obligation to your marketplace to be in business.
I would say those that are thriving through this right now are the ones that focus on things that I preach a little bit, not myself and a lot of people. You have to be profitable. All these people doing cheap work just to get revenue on the top line, but have nothing to show for it. You need cash reserves. You need to outlast the guys like that came aboard 15 months ago because he saw a podcast saying that restoration is so profitable, and he's not going to stick around through. He's not going to. People come and go. I've been in this business 23 years, and I think we've had 3 or 4 of these pretty lethargic cycles. I want to give you back to the social media part a minute. Again, I know it's generational. I know it's far more comfortable for some people. But don't forget that the people that you probably want your ideal jobs from are older. They own homes. They make more mature decisions based on the right things instead of just a flashy commercial. I traveled around the country for a round of classes teaching onboarding, and I went to Austin, and this very young, a youngish, mid-20s, late 20s young man, son of a 23-year veteran, taking over the company. And first he learned onboarding, but then it wasn't part of the class, but we talked about trust. He went and started he'd been in business 2 years, or been in business as owner for 2 years. Really wasn't utilizing. He's on social media, but he wasn't doing it for his business. He started doing that and onboarding combined. He texted me, I'd say 5 weeks after, and said, Klark, I've got 9 leads, 7 converted to jobs. We've made an extra $36,000 from videos, which, by the way, how much ad spend? 0. And he's like, now I won't stop. The other funny thing is this can't be stolen, but because they own the trademark, the hashtag. I am a keynote speaker at a franchise next month in Dallas. This is being recorded in April 2026 when you're watching this, but I'm doing a keynote for Voda, VODA. It's a franchise. I love their franchise. I love their model. They're doing very customer centric. They have like a little campaign where it's called Be the Mayor of Your Town. And it's back to what you say, become the subject matter expert that everyone talks about, but be the mayor, not only about what we do, but I connect you with other people to do other things. So if you're out talking to your plumbers, HVAC, electricians, roofers, GCs, you have connections through BNI, through chamber, whatever that is. I will end it with saying this, John. I know we've got to cut loose, but what you're saying, what I'm saying, this is our program where we call WRT to CEO. Our industry needs to get out of the mindset that we are super techs. You've got to own a business, which has to do with a lot more. It doesn't matter how many certificates you have if no one can find you to let you use them. Let your team do that, but just get in that mindset saying, I need to learn marketing. I need to learn sales. I need to learn measuring. Every market's one thing's going to work better than another's. And if you're not measuring, you're going to keep putting energy into something that's not producing and ignoring what it is. But I want it really, I can't want it more than them. And I know you and I both want our industry to really flourish. I think that some people need to go away, but it's low hanging fruit. It's never been easier right now than to get work if you do it right. Now, are there fewer jobs? Yes. Some people are busy. I just hope that the busy, and I do know some people that are busy that do terrible work, and that really aches me too. But check your website. I still check websites that are way out of date, don't have the right things. Just all those things matter. Jon Grubb, Unitede Restorers, you've had so many great. You are the subject matter expert to me on this digital marketing, especially diving into ad management and things like that. And because you have hundreds of videos of different diversification topics, someone can just go binge, but you're not going to get everything. But I like to say, John, you can help them make thousands for free, but you're going to charge them to make millions.
Yeah, I do. I believe in like we have our entire social media strategy posted to our website. I do a DIY pay-per-click series on YouTube because I know different companies have different budgets. Some, not to say that we're that expensive. I guess we were probably expensive 15 years ago, but and our prices really haven't changed. But yeah, if you can't afford us, at least let me show you how to do it right, so you're not wasting money. I don't want someone to do something wrong for a year or two in a row and then think, well, because I did it wrong, like they wouldn't know they did it wrong. But I don't want them to think like a pay-per-click ad doesn't work, or social media doesn't work, or geofencing doesn't work.
And that happens with restoration. People get bad restorers in their business, and they think that everybody must be bad. I see it with pay-per-click companies and digital marketing. I've been screwed by them, so they must all be crooks. It's not true.
And unfortunately, there's some younger marketers who specialize in this finger quotes in the space.
Careful that word.
Think ads are. I mean, I did a whole video on why ads are thriving. Google posts their earnings are only getting greater year over year over year because Google is an ad company. They're not a search company. They're not an AI company. However, they can figure out a way to shove an ad down your throat, they will figure out how to do it. And that's not going anywhere. It's only growing, and it's only grown since I started paying attention to Google in the late 2000s. So, yeah, I guess the moral of the story is what you said is a very bold statement, that now is the easiest time to go get work.
It really is.
While there's fewer jobs, it is easier. That's a bold statement, and I would challenge anyone who goes, well, wait, they just told me how bad it was, to go back and re-listen to the conversation, because it is truly, if you're doing it right, like the iron is hot. Again, I'm going to point out that 48% of folks who have been totally discarded, disenfranchised by their carrier, what are they doing? Remember, there are markets in this country that are cash only, because the deductible percentage that's been in effect for years. I'm looking at you, Houston. And there are companies that are cash based only who kill it all the time, and they never have to argue with an adjuster. So that is an option. There are ways in this market. And again, we're kind of in the Wild West right now. Also, if I am part of a private equity firm that acquired a bunch of restoration companies last year, I'm looking to get those off my books this year. Yeah. So again, kind of Wild West. All right, we will wrap up.
I'm seeing that. Listen, reach out to John. Reach out to me. John and I both have conversations that sometimes never go anywhere, or sometimes they do. And I think that's just why we got into this business, to help it. But it's not hard unless you make it hard. But there are people thriving. They probably have less talent than you, and that should keep you up at night. So Jon Grubb, UnitedRestorers.com, Klark Brown, RestorationAdvisors.com. Let us be your tribe of mentors and pay it forward. But John, have a great week. Thanks again. Let's keep let's touch base next quarter and do it again.
Always here for you. Love what you do.
All right, buddy. Take care of yourself.
All right, you too.